So I'm a transgender activist, a human rights defender, a feminist, and sometimes I advocate for all LGBTQ persons, and I'm proud for that.
Awesome.
I'm also a social worker and a monitoring and evaluation officer professionally. Yes.
Awesome. I'm a writer and journalist, and also project manager and communications manager. I like to call myself a retired activist. I used to be very active in like feminist issues, but specifically Black LGBTQI issues. So,
Awesome. I'm a medical student, and I call myself a conspirator for change or liberation. I think and talk a lot with people about how to liberate ourselves. So that's what I do other than school. Yeah. So I don't know. Should we just start with the questions? Maybe
Yeah,
I
we
have
can
them in front of
start.
me.
It's Pride. We can just mingle.
Yeah. So, Purity, you just came to Sweden not long ago.
Yes.
And so one of the questions that we wanted to talk about today was, just about expectations about Sweden being a progressive country or supposedly, progressive. What does that mean to you? Is it true? What does it look like?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. First of all, for me, Purity, it's a miracle to be here. Where I come from, I would be dead. I would be lynched. I would never come to a platform like this. Being me, otherwise police will be here. I've been in prison for forever. So for me, coming to Sweden is a dream come true. Honestly, I had never thought about something like that. And because I have spent like half of my life running away from danger, from torture, from discrimination, from depression and etc. just because of who I am. For me, being in Sweden is a dream come true, and I'm so thankful to the Swedish government to allow me to come here and be free. With that said, I still face way so much. First of all, I am a black person. I get so many people who look at me because I'm a black person. Secondly, I'm a transgender. And honestly, for transgenders in Sweden, they know that for us transgenders, we are looked at differently, even here in Sweden. And sometimes it's not like, pronounced out there. It is hidden somehow. Somebody creatively looks out for a way of looking at you differently. But then, thirdly, I am a black transgender person. So, I am half baked. The half is that I am free here and I can come here and I can access so much. I do not care what the world thinks about. But then, and I am legally supposed to be who I am, and I'm so proud. But then there is the other half where I get a bit more marginalized because I'm a transgender person. And I can give an example. When I just came, it was in January. I was so excited. It was snowing. I was coming from a very hot country. And then I get here, and then my social worker picked me and then took me to a shopping mall. And I was excited. I was like in hallelujahs. And then there is this drunk man who came to me like, and no, my social worker had moved away, and I didn't know how to use Google Maps. We don't use Google Maps, so I come from, because I was coming from a town in Kenya. So I was asking, where is this place? I think my social worker has gone to this place. And when I asked, hello, he says, nay, go back to Africa. That was a drunk person. But in most cases, a drunk person speaks their mind. It's not that they are drunk. They are speaking their mind that they wouldn't speak when they are sober. And also when it comes like now to my social workers, there are moments where they do not know who to work on me at the commune. They feel like, okay, we have to get somebody who understands transgender issues and etc and etc. And when I came, I was from struggling from drugs and etc because I was from hopelessness and I needed help to heal. And so when they were taking me for rehabilitation, to find me a place to place me to heal was hard. Why? They kept telling me, Purity, we are still looking for a transgender accepting place. And I kept asking myself, if I was brought here, wouldn't there be a person that is very much experienced about transgender issues? And also the fact that I am a black woman who has just come to a new country, a new everything, wouldn't there be a specialist ready to receive me and make me feel more at home? Because I was being asked questions on how I should be served, not how they should, not them telling me how they are going to serve me. It was me educating them. The last one is when I went to hospital and I thought I had TB, which I didn't have. And they were looking for a ward to put me. There they found a place. But there is a time I went to the ward and they put me in a men's ward. I never got out at all. Because I do not like I'm sorry to say this, because I come from a place where I've been abused a lot by mostly men. I didn't want to be next to men that time. So when they put me in a men's ward, I never got out, even to get food. And I was there by there for 5 days. There is this transgender, I don't know, I can't remember their name. Probably maybe they will watch and remember me. When I was in that ward and I was just always inside, and I asked them, please, if you have to give me food when it is time for food, bring it in my room. I don't want to get out. And then when that transgender person came, I'm like, this is wrong. You should have been taken somewhere else because you are not a man. And that's when I got served and then taken to a women's ward. Still, the women that were serving me, I know a few words in Swedish. So when you gossip about me, even when I'm still new, I will know. Because I have the link, I know how to learn some words. So they will say, oh my gosh, let me hope we are not saying something that, transgenders are actually, and then she's black, so she's transgenders are actually more sensitive. We don't know what to talk to her, and those were nurses. And at the end of the day, I got help. But then, back in my mind, because they knew I didn't know the language, they could come in my face and like, Purity, we love you and etc. And really, they served me well. I'm not saying that I really found difficulty getting help and served, but that behind door conversation really tortured me. So it is still, because I'm now like 6-7 months old here, it is still a question for me to know whether we are still not being looked so down by the society.
Thank you so much for sharing about that.
Yeah,
and I think it's just so useful to have that, not comparison, but just the fact that you've been in a place that was, more overtly maybe, transphobic, but that doesn't mean that you're spared here and that you can see the differences. And it's just important to bring that up.
Yes.
What about you, Juliet? What is your thinking around this?
About what was the question?
Yes. So the question being, is Sweden a progressive country? What does it look like in a progressive country? Discrimination. What does it look like here?
Well, I think, by the world standards, Sweden is one of definitely the most, safest progressive countries, by the world standards, and those standards are pretty low. But I think for me, I mean, I grew up here. I'm from Sweden, so I was born in Uganda, but I grew up here. So for me, I grew up very free in myself, basically in my queer identity. I've had a few, but yeah, I've always felt free in that. But it was still, as Purity mentioned a bit, when it came to being black in these spaces, it was still very very white. When I started going to Pride and stuff, since I was like 14, maybe 15, I think was my first Pride. So you're not looked at as a queer person and stuff. Being black and all that. So it was mainly that, I think. The white norm, so to speak. And the class differences is still very middle class. It's very expensive Pride, as we know. So not really feeling a part of the general sort of LGBTQ movement in Sweden. So we started our own like 6 years ago, in 2015. So that was like the first time where I felt like I could be both black and queer without having to choose. So that's sort of my background. With my activism, being a part of starting the Black queer movement here in Sweden in 2015. And to find that there were so many of us, a part of, the LGBTQI spectrum, of African descent. So that was beautiful. That's the first time where I felt a part of something, and not having to, choose your identity or, but to be all that you are, at the same time.
Right. It's so important with community, where you can actually be all of yourself. And being Sweden, Pride, being pretty white, it's difficult maybe to be all of yourself. So thank you for all your contributions to the Black queer community in Sweden. And so kind of going off of that, Purity, do you feel represented at Pride, or in BLM, like the Black liberation movement? Do you feel represented in those worlds?
Yes. Halfway or so, I'm represented because they are beautiful and amazing transgender persons that are doing an amazing job during this Pride. That is so beautiful, and I love it. And I am so glad that actually transgenders are coming out and being themselves during this Pride. But then, as a transgender black person, I don't feel fully represented. If I can ask, how many black transgenders do we have fully involved in the Pride Stockholm? Does anybody know? So who knows? Nobody. And for me to come here, because I'm new, I don't have a job, I am supposed to actually, I live on the government help. But to come here, I have like to really beg Black Lives Matter Sweden to pay for my tickets to be here. And at the end of the day, I have not seen a black transgender person, not anywhere in the management or in the team that is spearheading this. And it doesn't mean that you are not doing an amazing job. If you weren't doing an amazing job, then you wouldn't be here. So we applaud you for doing this and for giving us this voice, even like for allowing us to speak out on this Pride. But I think as for us black LGBTQ persons, we need more involvement. Because first of all, we come here and we come to a different totally society with everything so much different. It's you to nurture us. We are the rainbow family. We are supposed to uplift each other. And for some of us, we need that. You need to uplift us by involving us. Otherwise, if you don't involve us, then we shall always just really come and sit here for a few minutes and go, and then we still don't feel involved. And we also need to know you. We need to know us. You need to know us also. I need to know you. We all need to know each other. So the representation is still less. Recently, I was given a platform to speak at Pride. It's called Yavle.
Jävla, yeah.
Yeah, Yavle. And somebody who told me that I'm going to speak there said, "Oh, you're going to be the first transgender black person to speak. How does that feel?" But then there are so many transgender black persons here. One of them is there. I came with them and then they didn't even have a ticket, and I'm so proud of Pride Stockholm. Somebody at the reception just gave her a ticket there and then. That is very beautiful. But then the representation, it means that you need to know us, and then we know you, and then because of the fact that we are a spectrum that is still more marginalized, we need to hold each other as a team, not leaving out anybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can jump on that. No, as someone who's been involved for a few years,
Okay.
not so much anymore, but we've had a lot of conversations with Stockholm Pride and stuff. A lot of like, there were, during 2015, 16, there was a lot of like groups for like, obviously black queer people, but like people, queer people of color in general, who, had meetings and stuff with Stockholm Pride in terms of representation and, or lack thereof rather, so there have been conversations, and we've been in Pride talking about the white norm, talking about like, for year in and year out, to the point where we just like stopped going, because it's like we're having the same conversations every year as if it's a new thing when it's not, as if we're a new phenomenon when we're not, we've been here, so it's like, I think this is the first thing I'm doing for Pride, and it's for BLM, that I'm here, and also I wanted to, lift that perspective of what we have done previously, so that doesn't get forgotten, that we're not thinking this is something new, when it's not. So, so I think, people start their own things, people look outside of, these established organizations or established, movements, and create their own, and create their own sort of events, or their own, there's a lot of grassroots events or movements and stuff that have started, because people are tired of trying to, be included in, the mainstream ones, so they started their own, so I think that's also a reason why you don't see that many people anymore, here. So we have tried, but it's not our job to do so, because it's not, and we shouldn't be thankful for sitting here, because to be honest, y'all need us more than we need you, to be perfectly fair, because representation is something that benefits, benefits organizations to have that, if you want to be part of, the future, and or part of just what's going on now. So I think, it's important for Stockholm Pride and other, mainstream platforms to be in touch with grassroots movements, because you really do need that perspective, because there's a lot of great things that are happening, outside of here, and so to be like a larger, more inclusive movement, with grassroots and more established organizations, you have to really look to, the people doing the work outside of that to, for us to be a proper LGBTQI movement for everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for saying that. So on the flip side, is there anything that the Black movement, or like Black Lives Matter, or other organizations or just institutions within the Black community can do more to be more queer or LGBTQ, just inclusive?
I think it's similar there, that all movements need to center the more marginalized ones. It shouldn't be now let's do something queer, or now let's do something for trans people. Like, it has to be, it always has to center that, and you always start off, whether it's the queer movement or Black movement, start off with uplifting, cis men. You start with the most, with the least marginalized within that group. In the queer movement, it's obviously, cis gay white men, that like, and then when they got all their rights, they can get married, and now they want surrogacy and all that, and that's all they care about, but we have to start, with trans people, with black trans people, with black poor trans people, and then trans people of color, and then you have to start from there. You have to all movements have to center the most marginalized ones to begin with, not as a it's been some years and like, oh shit, now we need to add this, like it's an or like you're doing someone a favor, like by, hi, now we're including you in this. It's like, no, this is what you need to be a legitimate movement or organization. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I just want to say, like, there needs to be part of the foundation. It's not something that you just add, like a perspective. You just like, it's not additive. It's it needs to be part of the roots.
Yeah.
Sorry, Purity.
Yeah, sure. And to be very honest, we are still very grateful that we have even been given a platform, like she says. But then there should be a foundation for us to be included. Because if you just say, let's just involve that transgender person, let's just involve. But then you do not know all those things that comes with it. And it comes with the fact that we have to be a part of the planning. How do we plan for you better? If you feel like you are not well represented, how can we plan for you? Can we plan together? Because we are one community. And then for me, I'm still very grateful for the fact that you give us this platform so that you can get to know our perspective. So that when everybody is planning for us, they plan with us. And that's the best way to do it than just, calling Purity and you're like, Purity, you're going to speak on behalf of transgenders, black transgenders. But then I wasn't even like in the preparation of that, maybe to tell you that, I think this could have been the best topic to talk about, and here are the reasons why, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And we all together sit down, agree, learn, and we learn, because it is a learning process for all of us. We are all marginalized at the end of the day anyways. So it is a beautiful thing if we plan together and we grow together and we enjoy pride together.
Yes, everyone keep that in mind. I think you said it beautifully. Like, when you plan for us, plan with us.
Yes.
I think that's such a good just guiding principle.
And also we can talk I've said this before, this is such a deja vu. but like also we can talk about other things. I mean, then except for being black and queer or whatever, like we can talk about other things, And I saw what like Artificer has a conversation about like polyamory. I remember I've said this example before, and I think it's all white or looks all white, and I'm like, I know plenty of like black polyamorous people, or like like we can talk about other things other than that. Like that's when you see black people, I think we might be the only black people in the program, if I'm not mistaken. But like, we can talk about other things also, other than just like race or discrimination and stuff like that. I think that's real representation when we get to talk about other things too.
That's so true. And also I'm thinking a lot about just the idea of what representation is, and then that it's just not about skin tone or appearance. It's also about like ideas that are rooted in blackness, or like that that follow a black tradition of thought, and so it's just so much more, and all topics need that kind of like a decolonization, or like that kind of where we like examine what these topics would be without whiteness. So I really appreciate that too.
Thank you.
So we've talked a little bit about like some issues that we have, but what are some good memories that you have as a queer black person in Sweden? Like, what would be your favorite memories?
Can I begin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I have very beautiful memories. First of all, for me, I come from a community of hopelessness. I ran away from Uganda. Uganda is among the most homophobic and transphobic countries in the world. And why that happened, maybe I can give you just 1 minute of telling you why that happened. It is colonization. And whoever colonized us, they did us a disservice. Because they're the ones that actually brought homophobia, transphobia, and all those nasty phobias. In Uganda, we have a king. That king, all of us he has a name in Uganda called Buffet. It means our husband. And all of us, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're what, you call her a husband. And before colonization, there was not transphobia, homophobia in Africa. There wasn't nothing like that. It was brought by colonialists. They have their own reasons why they had to divert us from our beautiful culture and etc. and our beautiful selves for their own advantage. And they messed us up. Until today, we are still suffering. We are still, like I said, I have spent half of my life running away from all those phobias, running away from a beautiful world. Africa is so beautiful. We all can testify to that. It's a beautiful world. Running away and going somewhere, and I sometimes feel sorry for like my friends who go to some countries where like the colonization started from those other countries, where you know that you are there because of them, and you would be in your country if they didn't come to colonize you and then disorganize everything. That was bad. And then there is Christianity. Sorry to say, Christianity, I am so glad that the Swedish church has not been at the forefront of marginalizing LGBTQ persons. But I can mention names, because I know these people face to face. Canada and UK and the US, they brought these evangelicals that were preaching Sodom and Gomorrah and making us evil. All of us. This is not even about color or etc. Whether you're LGBTQ++, you are evil. Sodom and Gomorrah was, punished by that. And in Uganda, where I come from, right now the parliament is actually trying to table a motion to sentence LGBTQ persons to death, like death sentence or life imprisonment. And for me, because I come from a Christian background, I am dressed, this is Muslim life because I love Muslims as well. We all have to be included. But then, those Christians made us even hate God. There are some LGBTQ persons who love God, but they said God punished Sodom and Gomorrah. That notion, and then they go ahead to say that people should be sentenced to death. And these are Christians who say that God is love. What is love there? And so for us who come from that kind of hopelessness, and by the way, for me, I represent a community, you people, you need to know it. I come from Kenya. We ran away from all our countries. And I have my people down there in Kenya, transgenders and LGBTQ persons who can never get out of their house, who are living on hopelessness. They don't have food, they don't have nothing, because they ran away because of who they are. And they are still suffering because Kenya is a part of it. And so, the kind of hopelessness that we have suffered, it's us, it's me and you and everybody to condemn it. Because I have a feeling that some of you would love to have to go to Uganda, to Kenya, to Tanzania, to wherever, to enjoy pride. Not only in Stockholm all the time, because there is a beautiful world, but you know how to create that beautiful world is also to engage and reach out to those people that are in distress and are in our spectrum, because you are lucky, you are more blessed that you don't suffer those kind of phobias, but for us, we suffer them. So how do we get included? Please reach out. Let's not have so many refugees coming here. We don't want to come here. We would love to be there and developing our countries and inviting you as our friends, as our family. We enjoy together than coming here and then we spend the rest of our lives trying to figure out what life has for us. E.g., I have 2 degrees. I have a degree in social sciences. I have a degree in monitoring and evaluation. But see, I'm here, and right now I'm only learning Swedish, and that's all because there is, and my expertise is going to be wasted because somebody thinks that I am a refugee. There is nothing more I can actually offer, apart from learning a language and maybe doing that small little dirty job that will be there, you see how you're missing out? And you're missing out on the amazing things that the world would actually be bringing out if we all fought homophobia, transphobia, and all those phobias. So that we all, if it is winter, you go to another country and enjoy summer there. If it is summer here, we all come and enjoy. And so for me, the inclusion that I would love to see is to see us advocating for people who are hopeless and are in our spectrum, and we are the ones that are supposed to advocate for them. Thank you.
That's so beautiful, Purity.
Thank you.
I'm so moved by everything you're saying, so thank you. So on the topic of memories, like, do you have any good memories from being a Black queer person?
Yeah, I have many. I feel like I create them every day. Just existing. no, but yeah. But one thing that stands out, I mean, that I always have to say is when we made history 2015. It was Black Coffee then. That was a Black movement for Black people here in Sweden. And then we created a group for the queer people within that. So for Black queer people. In 2015, we were at Stockholm Pride, and we became the first all-Black section of Pride. So it wasn't just Black queer people, but Black allies as well. So that was magical. That's one of the greatest, I think, memories in my life in general, like what that meant for me and many other people. So that's probably the main one. But then I have many, just in my life. Personal ones.
The other memory I actually forgot to mention.
Yeah, I was going to ask you again.
Oh my gosh, for me, that day I arrived in Sweden, it was like as if I had arrived in heaven. I knew that I was free from people discriminating me. I had people welcoming me from the airport. I had enough of people asking me, how can I help you? How do you want to be served? And then I have met so many Swedish people that are actually so nice to me, and they are so amazing. And then, of course, I had like a Black community. There is a sister I don't want to mention. She came late, so I won't talk about her. She's somewhere there, and she was so nice to me. And the fact that I didn't have to really think about look left and right and see who is going to attack me. Knowing that I am legal, nobody is supposed to attack me. That was a part of my freedom, and I'm so grateful.
And that was actually the next question. So what does freedom look like? So you describe, being able to walk freely. What is freedom?
For me, freedom is when we are all free, or when the majority are free. Sometimes when we say all, it is, a bit at the extreme. But what about when the majority are free? I am so glad that I'm more free. I am so glad that I can express myself. I'm even here. It's a miracle, right? You are a part of my story. Black Lives Matter has been a part of my story. Even when I was in Kenya, they saved my life. By the way, I'm here because of them. Otherwise, there is a time I was running away from the police. There is a police cell back in Kenya that I had made a corner. It was always my corner. So whenever they could arrest me, I could tell them, please take me to the other corner. Because prison had become my home because I was a transgender. So for us to be free, for me, I am so grateful that I'm free, but that is 50. The other 50, I represent a hopeless community. I have so many transgenders right now. If here in Sweden there is nobody who really, I don't know whether there is somebody who sleeps hungry. Maybe but I haven't seen one. But for me right now, I can see LGBTQ refugees in a camp in Kenya who cannot have a meal and they are illegal. They don't have food, they are not allowed to work, and every day somebody's attacked, somebody's killed, like I have lost so many, and they are running away for only their lives. And more so when it comes to transgenders, it is even worse. Because sometimes, even when we are in Kenya, other LGBTQ plus persons could tell you, for you transgenders, keep indoors, otherwise when you get there, you're already pronounced. You'll be killed. And honestly, I started moving on the streets when I came to Sweden. I think Lina knows, because Lina used to know that I could be in one space for forever until when maybe I have like an important meeting and I have to call somebody special to just get out of the house. Otherwise, I will be lynched. I have so many scars. I have been attacked so many times, at least some scars. If somebody sees this, it's there. So for me, freedom is if we can reach out to people in our own spectrum out there that are suffering, and we also help them to get out of that. That would be freedom for me. Total freedom. But for now, I can enjoy the half freedom here. Thank you.
I just think it's really remarkable how, giving you freedom, or, like you achieving some sense of freedom will bring so many people up with you, because you're part of a bigger community. So I'm glad that you're lifting that up. So we only have a few more minutes left, but I want to hear about your, what is freedom to you? And if we have any time left, maybe, I don't know if there are questions, but.
Yeah, well, I'll be brief. I think freedom for me is the first thing I think about is Nina Simone quote. Freedom to me means no fear, and that I think ties to what you were saying, to not have to be afraid. I mean, the most basic freedom is to be able to go out of your house, to be able to just exist. But then real freedom is to be able to not just survive, but to be able to live. To thrive, to do what you want to do beyond just being able to go out and not being afraid of being attacked. So I think that when you said half freedom, I thought that was so interesting, because I think that there are still strategies that you have to have in place. Even in Sweden as a woman, obviously we know about the problems of sexual harassment, or even worse than that, patriarchal violence that we still face even here. Or as a black person or person of color, the strategies that you still have to have in place when you move in these public places. We generally don't have that overt public violence in Sweden. It's mostly in the house, but we don't have the overt public violence. But there's still those what we call microaggressions that happen. That are still a form of violence, of course. So there's still not full freedom even in that. To move in your fullness, so to speak. So that's what it means to me, being fearless.
Freedom is fearlessness. I like that. Okay, so actually we only have like a couple minutes. I don't know what you're supposed to do at the end. It's like, thank you for being part of this. I'm so grateful. I hope that we get to hear. I mean, I know you sometimes get the chance to speak at these kinds of things.
I don't need to speak anymore. I want to hear more from Purity. I'm done speaking now.
We're definitely not more. I want to see more of Juliet, and I want to see so much more also of Purity. So I'm so grateful that that you're here and that we've been able to listen to both of you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
And a great job impromptu moderating. That is
thank you.
Very amazing. I would love to hear more more from you.
We'll talk.
Well. Yes, we'll talk.
And then we have a whole pride, coming up. Anytime you have questions, we can always mingle and catch up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you.
All right, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you.